This tutorial is to show you how to do a very simple, beginner friendly crochet pattern for a baby blanket or any type of blanket really. The pattern repeat is so easy to remember. I'm using a 6mm hook and my yarn is Baby Blossom Chunky, which is a really soft squishy yarn. I love it, and I've got the colour Buttercup, this one, but unfortunately I've only got one skein and it's out of stock at the moment, so but I do really like the Buttercup shade. So what I've decided to do is I am going to, when I make the blanket, is I'm going to crochet a couple of rows in Buttercup and then do a colour change and bring in this colour, which is there it is, and I think this is called Lavender. Chain any number that's divisible by 2. So for this tutorial I'm going to chain 30. So we start off with a simple slip knot and we chain 30. Okay, so that's 30, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do a half treble in the 3rd chain from the hook. So this is your working chain, so you never count that. So the 3rd chain from the hook is 1, 2, 3. So you're going to do a half treble into that chain. And what you, for your foundation chain, it's always better if you can, and it's a good practice to get into, is to pick up both of the top loops rather than just going through one of them. So I'll demonstrate that. So we're in the 3rd chain here where my thumb is. So we're going to do a half treble, which is a half, that's UK, and that's a half double in the US. So you're going to yarn over and you're going to put your hook, insert your hook into the 3rd chain, but instead of just going through that one loop there, you're going to go, just turn your work slightly and pick up the 2 loops on your hook, and then you've got one underneath, as you can see there. So you're going to do a half treble, which is yarn over and then pull through all 3 loops. So we'll do that again. So into the next 2 loops, which is there, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. The one thing to be mindful of is if you're trying to pick up both loops, which you can clearly see there, if you just grab the bottom loop of your next stitch and just twist it slightly, it's those 2 loops there that you need to be getting. So I'll demonstrate that. Yarn over, insert your hook and just make sure you're catching both of those loops there. Yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3, and you just continue that along all the way to the end of your row. Right, okay, we're right at the end of the row here, and what you need to do is you need to just try and don't forget about that very last stitch there. Okay, and that's your first foundation chain row. And what we're going to do now is we are going to chain one, oops, chain one and turn your work. Don't worry too much if it's curling up at this moment, it doesn't actually matter that. Okay, so we're going to chain one at the end of that row and turn. And then what you're going to do is, and this is going to be the only pattern repeat you're going to do now, going for the rest of the whole of the blanket. So you're going to work a half treble into this very first stitch here. So if I just twist the work a little bit, so there's your first stitch. So you're going to work a half treble into that very first stitch. Make sure you pick up both loops. Okay, so that's your first half treble, and then you're going to skip a stitch, and in the next stitch you're going to put a double crochet, UK double, single crochet in the US. You're going to grab your yarn and pull it through, yarn over and pull through both loops, and then in the same stitch that you've just worked that double, you're going to put a half treble, yarn over, insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull it through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Then you skip the next stitch, and in this stitch you do exactly the same. So you put a double crochet and a half treble in exactly the same stitch. Skip a stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, half treble in exactly the same stitch, and you do that all the way along to the end of the row here, and I'll meet you back at the very last stitch. Okay, and we've worked our last double crochet and half treble. There you're going to skip that stitch, and in the very last stitch you're just going to work a half treble. Okay, so at the beginning and the end of each row you work a half treble only, and then you go into your pattern repeat. So again, we're at the end of a row, so you're going to chain one, always chain one, and turn your work, and off we go again. You're going to work a half treble into your first stitch, you're going to skip a stitch, and in this next stitch you're going to do the same pattern repeat. You're going to do a double crochet and a half treble, skip a stitch, double crochet, half treble, skip a stitch, double crochet and a half treble, and you do that all the way along to the end of the row. I'll meet you back here just to finish off once again at the end of the row. So we've just done our last pattern repeat, and in the very last stitch here you just put a half treble. and you're going to chain 1 and turn, and that's it. That's your pattern repeat for the baby blanket. It's beginner friendly, it's a very easy pattern to remember, it's easy on the hands for you to work up. It's a lovely pattern, and to work it up in a chunky yarn is even better because it soon grows quite quickly, and I can't recommend this Baby Blossom Chunky enough. It's very soft, squishy. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial, and thanks for watching. Okay, so just for the purposes of this sample piece, I'm going to show you how to finish the top edge of your blanket off. So you've worked all of your rows, how many rows you want to do, and you've got to the top and you want to finish it off. So you've finished your last row and you're going to chain 1 and turn as in previous rows, and then all you're going to do is you're just going to work a half treble into the very first stitch as you've always done in the other rows, and a half treble in the next stitch and the next stitch. So you're not going to be skipping any stitches at all now, you're just literally working a half treble all the way along these stitches. So don't skip any, you just work into the top of all of these stitches along the row, and that will give you a nice finished look to the top of your blanket. So just every single row stitch, don't miss any. Okay, we're almost at the end now, next to the last stitch. Don't forget that very last stitch there. Oops. And there we have it. Turn it over. So that's the top of your blanket now, so it just gives that nice finished effect on the top. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. Join me next time. Okay, so just for the purposes of this sample piece, I'm going to show you how to finish the top edge of your blanket off. So you've worked all of your rows, how many rows you want to do, and you've got to the top and you want to finish it off. So you've finished your last row and you're going to chain 1 and turn as in previous rows, and then all you're going to do is you're just going to work a half treble into the very first stitch as you've always done in the other rows, and a half treble in the next stitch and the next stitch. So you're not going to be skipping any stitches at all now, you're just literally working a half treble all the way along these stitches. So don't skip any, you just work into the top of all of these stitches along the row, and that will give you a nice finished look to the top of your blanket. So just every single row stitch, don't miss any. Okay, we're almost at the end now, next to the last stitch. Don't forget that very last stitch there. Oops. And there we have it. Turn it over. So that's the top of your blanket now, so it just gives that nice finished effect on the top. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. Join me next time for some more sample stitches that I'll work through with you, and I'll give you some ideas of what you can make. If you'd like to like and subscribe, that would be great. And thanks for watching.